recording and let's go.
Hi, this is Super Booth 2023 and we are SequencerTalk ready to rumble with Norand, Mathieu,
Hello.
and with Dean.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
And this is Mugulator, the famous guy from Sequencer.de.
This guy.
The fabulous guy. Yeah, okay, all jokes aside, we are really, really glad to have you here and finally in person.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We talked so much, but never met actually. And now we see us in real life. That's so good. So there's a lot changed since we last spoke.
Yeah, lots of new stuff. It's been 4 years, I think. Norand started. We released Mono MK2 3 years ago. So a lot happened for sure. A lot of new ideas, and yeah, I mean we're still here.
Are you still involved in other projects from other
yes
from collaborations with others?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm involved in another controller company, sort of, and bought me, which makes the array touch, and it has always been both things for me. Like there is no main gig or side gig. Those are my two main gigs.
Maybe we should talk a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Sure.
And where you come from in a very short sentence, because you did some really, really great stuff. And we should talk, before we start with the new things, in a brief second, what is your main thing that you do with Norand?
Well, Norand is a synth company, and for now we have two products. Mono, which is an analog monosynth, and Morphos, which is a Eurorack oscillator. And the future for us is pretty much everything. We want to do everything. We want to go drum machine. We want to go polyphonic. We want to go with some crazy digital synthesis ideas. I mean, ideas we have. That's not a problem. Now it's all a matter of making those realities, and this takes a lot of time, probably because I'm very picky, and I want my products to be the best as possible, and that's probably the reason I made an MK2, even though it's we only have like one product. I don't want to rush into new things and leave something unfinished. So
to speak about it, the mono is your monophonic, now a little bit duophonic synthesizer with two oscillators and a filter and an envelope. So far, so good. Some people mistake this as a free-ish thingy, but it's so much more, because you can modulate every knob. You have on every knob an envelope, an LFO, and you can record like step or automation lanes.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea is to start with the basic stuff, because to me, you don't necessarily need like hundreds of oscillators, filters, and to make pretty much anything. You need two oscillator and a filter, and that's about it. With just that and enough modulation source, you can synthesize anything. With analog, I mean, so drums like kick drum, snare drums, hi-hats, even. This is
if the modulation is fast enough, you have the noise.
Yeah. You can even make a noise, sort of, and hi-hats, for example, which when you tell people that you can make hi-hats with an analog oscillator, they're like, what? But this is how it started. On very old drum machine, hi-hats are made with multiple square wave oscillator that are filtered. That's just it's just about synthesis and sound design. But anything can be made with two oscillators and a filter.
Actually, you can combine those oscillators, or the oscillators and the filter. So you can create FM between the oscillators, and one or both maybe oscillators to control the filter.
So what you can do, there are multiple ways you can create frequency modulation. There are there is some analog frequency modulation from oscillator 1 to oscillator 2. So it's through zero frequency modulation from 1 to 2. That's one easy way, I would say, but it sounds really good. I love through zero frequency modulation. It's beautiful. And then with the modulator, so the LFO.
How fast is that LFO per parameter?
It can go to 4 kilohertz, I think. So
that's a lot.
Yeah, it's audio rate basically. So you can use it for LFO, but you can put it into audio rate mode. And in audio rate mode, it's synchronized to oscillator 1 pitch. And so if you apply it to the filter, for example, it will follow it, and the timbre, the sound will stay the same when you play the notes. So it's really a sound design tool when it's turned to audio rate. And also, what's great about having a big digital brain that allows to track each of those modulators is that even though you can go really crazy, it's kept under control. Like you can easily repeat a sound when you find something that you like, find a good patch, just save it, and you're pretty sure that every time you turn the mono on, it will sound the same.
I have a rather evil question because it's very special. But when you have, let's say, one of these generated LFOs, can you track these to the keyboard? Actually,
yes.
So if you can do that, you can actually have multiple FMs going to the pulse width, going to the oscillators, so you can do Buchla kind of style of modulation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because the tracking is one of the most important things. Because normally you have two oscillators that are tracked, and so maybe it's not really well known, especially on the mono, because most people think looks like a beta 303 or a bit more like the Avalon or something, but it's actually another kind of synth. And there's one synth I could really compare to, which is software from Dave Spears, which is all of his creations, like the Oddity, which has really one envelope and one LFO per parameter, which is really rare. And you did the same with hardware.
Exactly, with hardware, with analog oscillators, and
plus the, let's say, hardwired FM, but also some FM you can create on the go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to make it clear how it works.
It can be a very good tool for West Coast style synthesis because, you can like Buchla style synthesis. You can, so you have, I think, 15 of the parameters where you can put FM on it, and all at different pitches, and they will all track the pitch. So it's really, when you think about it, it's really a very complicated. It's like you have a wall of modular basically on a 30 centimeter by 15 centimeter synthesizer.
And you have even a dedicated knob for FM through zero.
Yeah, that you can even modulate
the FM
with FM.
Yeah, let's change the view angle and watch it from another angle, like the performance. How fast can you set up maybe I want an LFO on, let's say, first on the filter and another LFO on...
There's no menu diving.
It's 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Literally. Like you just
wiggle the knob.
You wiggle it a little bit, and then you put an LFO there, and then another one. And like when you have, I don't know, a week of experience with a synth, in 1 minute, you have an idea, a synthesis idea. In 1 minute, you get it done. 1 minute. And then the pattern, we didn't talk yet. We aren't talking yet about the sequencing side.
Yeah.
We'll probably, but
we still talk about the we still talk about the MK1 thing, the normal ground.
We didn't mention the morphing, which is also in, maybe well known from the Base Station 2, maybe. That's more well known as FX twin mode.
Yeah.
And you did the same. Yeah. So you can do a lot of sounds in one machine, but just, and of course on the module, we may come back to this later because you should stay with a mono first. So you can morph between the sound or the patches. Actually,
Yeah.
I think it was eight buttons to have access to different sounds.
There are two different ways. Like morphing is really on the pattern side. So you have pattern 1 and pattern 2, and you can go from one to the other, and it will continuously mix the two with the patch. Not only the patch, but also the pattern that is recorded. This mode, the sort of AFX mode, we call it mod node on mono, and basically you turn it on, and it replaces the keyboard by the 8 lower keys become patches. So you select one, put a patch there, the second, third, fourth, and then you can play the different patches, and they will like switch instantly to the new patch, and you can sequence them. So you can make drum kits basically, and then sequence it. So a lot of our users, they use mono as a drum machine actually.
Yeah, we did a sample pack for that on our steady side for our supporters.
Okay, I didn't know that.
There's a thing that this is what you talked about, the FX twin thingy on the Novation side, and then you evolved this completely new, like you said, into this pattern morphing. So you morph between not just the sounds, like on a matrix brute or something, on the polybrute or something. You just literally morph between two step patterns. So if you have a 16 note pattern and something completely different, you can morph between these steps and the sound. And that's a little bit mind-boggling. I tried it yesterday.
How does it work? Maybe if it's morphing, some of these steps may change, maybe in the middle, and then changes from there's a step and there's no step. How does it work?
Okay, it's
when you morph between. It may sound ridiculous, maybe, but things like you have a normal techno kind of sequence, and then you have something completely different with swing or something. How do you morph between that? How does it actually sound like?
It's not easy because there is a lot. Basically, when we implemented this, we wrote down a set of rules. So, for example, the notes, you don't want to morph between the pitches because it will sound very weird. So what we do is that the notes, if there is a note that 2 notes on the same step on the 2 pattern, then we will just, when we switch, we will just keep the note of the first pattern and only switch at the end. The patches, they continuously switch. So if you want to do this morphing between the pitch, you can do it with the oscillator anyway. So it's possible to do it. Then the slides, same. We have a rule that is, I think it's a 50% rule. So when we reach 50% morphing, if we are more on the side of the pattern that has the slide, then we will apply the slide. And for each events that can be played, automation, accents, everything has a rule that applies to it. And we try to design it to be as musical as possible. So it can go crazy. It can go really crazy, but it can be somehow controlled. Like if you design 2 patterns with the intent of being morphed together, it can create very controlled stuff. But you can also try it with something that wasn't made for it. For example,
this is something what I tried yesterday. I did a pattern, copied it, and then did some changes for other patterns that I copied over, and then morphed between this to see if you can get a real musical approach out of it.
If you do that on sounds, you can arrange something like Arturia did. They made every parameter sort of being a slider or be something that goes from to. Like you can make, let's say a sync sound. Then you have hard sync there and soft sync, or no sync there and soft sync there. Like it gets one continuous parameter, but on a pattern, you simply have nodes or no nodes, or maybe a group of nodes. Does it check if there's a group of nodes and does things, because you said there's an algorithm for that?
Yes.
For accents, for everything. So you may have rules for different things, as you said.
Yeah.
How does it work actually musically, not just the sound? That's why I try to explain for the brains of you people there.
Yeah.
If you want to morph things, it started all with waveforms going from the ones from sine wave with almost no overtones to something with a lot of overtones like noise or like sawtooth. That's really, yeah, you can imagine that might work, and that works. But with musical stuff, how does it work? Because it's really a different kind of thing.
Again, there's let's say we only have a pattern with nodes, no mod node, nothing complicated. Then it's monophonic. So yeah, you have only one note at a time, except in duophonic mode. But that's another story. There is at no point in time there are two notes that are blended together. The patches are blended together, but the notes, it's either the first pattern or the other. So when you're morphing from patterns with, let's say you fill all the steps on both patterns, when you're morphing from 1 to 2, you will morph the patch, and only when you reach the end of the course of the potentiometer, or when you reach the end on the touch strip, only at that point will it switch the nodes to the second pattern. So you slowly go to the other patch continuously, and then when you reach the end, then it switched to the other pattern. So it creates really interesting effects. Now, let's say on the first pattern, there is one step at the beginning. And on the other pattern, there is one step in the middle. Then when you morph from one to the other, it will slowly turn on the sound of the second step. So
it works with a velocity then?
Sort of, yeah. It's the level of the VCA, yeah, sort of. And when you are in the middle, the two notes are playing because they are not on the same step. And then when you go more to the second pattern, then you're fading out the level of the first note. So there is this rule that's when there's a node on the same step, and then another rule when there is no node on the other step. And the algorithm must know all that at the same time. And the node can be offset from the center of the step. So that's another level of complexity. When we start reading a step, we need to sort of go in the future to check the whole step. So the whole moment. So that's on Mono version 2, there's 256 position that we have to check. Is there a node there on both pattern? And if there's a node there, then we have to apply the algorithm when there are two nodes on the same step. And if not, then we apply this other rule.
Does this even work with the mod nodes?
Yeah.
Because then you can morph between drum patterns and synth patterns.
Yes, this is a very cool thing to do. Actually, I have my friend Yorick, which is a beta tester and a very heavy mono user. He told me an anecdote about that. He was playing at a rave in the south of France, very big sound system with the mono, and he did that. He did this morphing between a drum pattern and with mod notes and a like a normal synthesis pattern, and the people went crazy because it tricks your brain. Like you don't understand what's going on. It's just what did I just hear? It's insane.
And to make it clear, it's still with analog oscillators.
Yes, it is.
This is something. If you look at some other companies, they make a big rave about. It doesn't get too much attention, and it deserves a lot of more attention because you have this crazy fast modulation on a really stable oscillator, and this is something I really like on the sound because we just talked about the modulation and all the stuff, but the oscillators are really, really clean and powerful and not wobbly. sometimes you have these big wobbly oscillators. No, they are really good and hard in a certain way, I think. It has a unique sound, especially with the filter, because it's not so colorful. It's not a really crazy colorful filter design.
I'd say it's quite versatile. It can be really quiet, and it can go into very hard territory when you push the resonance. Like
and you can tune the resonance that on the MK1. There was a little trick. You hold something when you go up.
You can calibrate sort of the max level of resonance, because at the beginning I made it so that when resonance is at maximum, it outputs the same level as the oscillator, and then people told me we want more than that. I'm like, okay, then.
Does it change its character when you put in something with a really high level compared to really quiet ones?
Yes, you can overdrive the filter. When you go above like 2 o'clock on the knobs of the oscillator, it starts overdriving the filter, and it's a particular overdrive. It's asymmetric, so it only clips the bottom of the waveform. It has a nice character to it. And now on MK2, there's an overdrive at the output, so you can blend the two, and you can go really hard.
So we have two big topics still not mentioned. One is actually sequencing, and the other one is the Mark II, the touch sensitivity stuff. Maybe, what's best? Maybe start with the sequencing.
I mean, we kind of talked about it with the morphing stuff. This is sort of the ultimate feature of the sequencer, but it can also do normal stuff, like not just mode nodes and crazy morphing between.
And some pretty clever stuff, because you have on the sequencing side so many performance features like mute steps,
mute mod node,
mute mod nodes,
lots of randomizing features as well.
What does mute steps means? It's where playing legato or something, or what?
No, it's just you can mute the steps. Let's say you're in a live situation and you mute a few steps, and then you can release the mute all at once. So it's sort of.
Is it like active steps on other machines, so it will be skipped, or is it?
Yeah, this is.
Okay. Yeah. Just to tell everyone, because everyone calls it differently. So it's like sub steps, which is ratcheting or roll on other machines. I'm sure you have it.
You can do that as well. You can ratchet. You can micro shift, so like offset the step. You can put a probability on each of the step, and you can combine all three. You can combine probability, ratchet, and micro shift.
And the third thing should be glides and ties, and I think that is possible too.
Yeah.
It's a modern machine.
You've got your classic 303-ish slide with that ties to the next note and slides to it. You've got accent, of course, that you can program.
Is it an accent, or just on off, or is it a range, or is it actually really a full velocity thing?
These are two different things on mono. The accent is continuous, so you can actually it's not on off. You can program it to, let's say, if you assign it to the filter cutoff, you can have a different level of accent. You can have on-off accent, but you also can have different level of accent, and then you have velocity that you can assign to something else. It's really like you can use the two combined, sort of.
You can have, let's say, envelope amount on the filter, which is the first one I would really prefer to be dynamic, and you set the values, or play it since you have new pads.
Yes,
Yes,
it's sort of the same subject, because accent, velocity, aftertouch, pitch bend, and vertical, what we call vertical. Those three last things, those are three axes, X, Y, and Z. Basically.
Maybe we should talk, before we do this on the Mark II, explain how the morphos works, because this will cover it a little bit
Sure.
easier, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
okay, let's do it.
so this I was about to introduce this those 3D sensor. So it's a co-development that with Embodme, and those are touch sensitive, pressure sensitive sensor that we made so that we can on a single button, like 8 by 8 millimeters, something like this, we can detect the pressure and the X and Y position. Essentially, you can go up on the button. It's a silicon button, so you can go up by sort of deforming the silicon, and you can go left and right. So we
like
have
Keith McMillan stuff.
yeah. It's the same technology behind it. It's a very old technology that you find on pretty much every pressure sensitive instrument.
Yeah, it's a piezo kind of thing.
It's called FSR. It's force.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's based on FSR.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's force sensing resistor.
Yeah.
The only tricks here is that we use some clever analog stuff to be able to directly output the X, Y, and Z value. We don't have to do the acquisition of all the data and then calculate the XY position in software. We do it directly in hardware.
Wow.
So it's really fast and it allows to sort of make it smaller, and that's really cool tech. That's really meaningful for musical application.
For the nerds, what's inside? What kind of processor is inside?
It's a standard MCU, like Cortex M7. So
okay.
yeah, nothing crazy on that side. But on the analog part, before we do the acquisition, there's a lot of trickery. That's our secret sauce, sort of, to make it really fast and really sensitive. We can detect 10 grams of force on the sensor.
I get back to the sensor in terms of the Morphos thing.
Yeah, so it's cool to have good tech, but we have to make something out of it. That's the main point, I would say. So on Morphos, we kind of went crazy with it. So you can store presets on Morphos, and there are 3 layers: the X layer, the Y layer, and the Z layer. So, and on the touch strip of Morphos, you have 4 slots. So 4 slots for each of the layer. So let's say you store 2 presets on slot 1 and slot 2 on the X layer, and you do the same on the 2 other layer. Then you can go in 3D mode. And in 3D mode, imagine that the slot 1 and slot 2 are on a 3D space on the front. On the back, you have the 2 presets of Z, and on top, you have the 2 presets of Y. And then you can morph between X and Z. The harder you press, you can morph from X1, so slot 1, to X2, from left to right. And then when you go up, you morph to Y, and everything that there is in between. So you really
have to imagine you are in a cube and you're
sort of
more like a spaceship, like
navigating inside this cube. That's exactly that.
And if you try to get your head around, this is still possible while all the other stuff works at the same time. So it's not just you have this modulation or that modulation. You can still do everything at once if you like. And this is something I never saw in this regard.
Yeah, it's remember this controls analog oscillator in the end. So it sends this oscillator into new territories. That's what I like about it.
And it's still easy to play on. It's like this synthesizer is like a like a game. Imagine like a game. You managed level 1, getting a bass thingy out of it, and then went down in the rabbit hole and go completely crazy after you finished everything else.
Yeah, it's a good analogy, I think, because mono and Morphos, anyone can start to play with it without reading the manual or anything. It's just when you start with it, it's just what it should be, like basic bass lines and for one, and oscillator for the second.
If someone asks me about the Morphos, I try to explain it in a normal way. You have 3 layers. You can morph between your settings. And the cool thing is about the Morphos, you can still save your tunings for your performance, so to say. Yeah, still have a analog oscillator where you can store your tunings for your next songs or something. If you just want to do that, and then there's a complete other route that goes through hell and back.
Yeah, it starts with a simple dual oscillator, like complex oscillator, as it's called by many people, with a crossed through zero frequency modulation. But when you dig deeper, there are some really cool features.
So you already said there will come other things, but there's a new addition even with the Morphos, and it has now it has a drive now.
No, Morphos is
not the Morphos, Mono.
Yeah,
sorry, MK2 has now a drive.
Mono has a driver at the output now. It's a neat little new feature because it can go into very new territory in terms of synthesis. You can go sort of screamy 303-ish sound. You can modulate it also, so you can you can put an attack on it if you want to add some grids and some transient at the attack. There's a lot of cool thing that you can do with the drive, but I wouldn't say this is the biggest difference from MK1.
No,
it's probably, we talked about the 3D sensors. Well, we improved that and we put it on the keyboard and the sequencer bar of Mono MK2. The big improvement is not just that, is that having expressive key is cool, but if you cannot do anything with it, it's kind of pointless. So we had to think of a way to be able to record those expressive playing with very fine resolution. Like, you don't want your automation or your expressive playing to be recorded and quantized to the step. You want them to be very fine, and you want to record exactly what you play. And that's what we did. We improved the sequencer so that it records at 1024 ppqn. So basically, you have 256 events in each step in time. So it's really fast. Basically, it's what you get on a DAW. So,
and can you use the new keyboard to put out all the modulation stuff over MIDI?
Yes.
So you can use it as a MPE.
Absolutely.
Controller.
We haven't implemented it yet, but it's pretty straightforward to make it an MPE keyboard, and we will before the end of the year, because at one point we want to go. It's no secret we want to go polyphonic at one point, and the keyboard, needs to output MPE for that, and this will be already implemented on Mono, even though it's a Mono synth. We will probably implement MPE really quickly. It's actually pretty straightforward to do, since we've rewrote the whole software on MK1 with the version 2 to be able to implement all those features really quickly and efficiently.
I heard someone say, "Oh, I got a Mark 1 and now I'm completely screwed because the Mark 2 is now out." But you rewritten completely the whole firmware for MK1.
Yes.
So it can still do now the some of the morphing stuff.
Yeah. MK1 will. It's MK1 and MK2 has the same software base. I wrote the software so that it's the same. The only thing that MK1 cannot do is the high resolution automation, because it's not powerful enough. So every feature that we implement on MK2 and that can run on MK1 will be implemented on MK1.
How does this how does it apply to the it's understandable there's touchpads on steps. What does it do? Is it comparable to some kind of parameter locks with movement? Something?
Yeah. It's a very good question, because we put a lot of thought into that. So let's say you record an automation, and so it's a sort of a curve. What we are going to do is that we are writing codes that will fit your curve into its mathematical representation as a sort of a Bezier curve, or the you know, when you use a graphical software like vector software, and you draw a curve, you have this anchor that you can move around, and everything will fit to it. We've implemented the same thing with automation, and you will be able to grab the anchor with a finger, move it up, down, left, and right, and everything around it will move with it. So it will stay smooth all the time. Of course, you will still be able to do, quantized thing. We're not going back on that.
It's not often that I see Mogulator's face going, okay, this is pretty crazy.
It's just a question because it's really hard. You could do a lot with this, but how does it actually work is the most important thing.
Yes.
Because I'm always thinking as a performer, of course.
Of course.
What can I do with it? I can understand there's knobs and you can morph things, or you can play something like a keyboard. That's really easy, so we don't have to talk about that. It's really cool, but it's known. Everyone knows how that might
I
work.
understand that.
But on a step, it's something different. I had something maybe on the elect drives or something that is just you have a button smooth or
Quantized.
Triggered. When triggered, that's one, and the next one is will just be played on the sorry on the second step, or on the next step. Actually.
Well, it's just like 3D morphing. 3D morphing, when you explain it, it sounds crazy. It's hard to just, you're like, yeah, but I don't understand it. And when you actually use it on the synth, it's very, very simple. Turns out like it's just, you don't have to really understand how it works. It just works. It's just fun to use, and it's like a performance feature. If you want to dig deeper and understand the like the tricks to use it, sort of, to master it, then you can, but you don't have to. And with this automation editing feature, it's the same thing. We want to make it easy. We want to, when you go, it will be called curve mode. And the idea is that when you go to curve mode, you put your finger and move it, and you will hear what it does to the sound. So you don't have to understand the implementation behind it. You just move your finger on it, and you're like, oh, okay. Oh, this is how it works. And it just works. Again, it's not easy to explain without actually seeing it in action. But I'm sure that when we start publishing videos about it, it will become easy to understand to everyone, because it's really not hard. Imagine like on a DAW, like Ableton, when you take a point of automation and you move it around with the mouse, it's exactly the same thing, but you're doing it with a touch bar, sort of.
Okay. Maybe talk about performance and or maybe just the basics again, because we never know. There's how many steps? What's the limit? What are the limits of the
64?
Yeah, it's and they can be chained.
Yeah, you can chain the pattern. There is a song mode where you can chain an unlimited amount of pattern, and the pattern can be up to 64 steps long. With version 2, could potentially be higher, but for now we didn't implement it because we want to keep it simple. You have 64 simple, sort of simple. You can have 64 pattern on a project. On MK1, you have a 32 project. On MK2, you have an unlimited amount of project because it's stored on an SD card. And yeah, that's for the classic part, sort of.
Now you can store the things on the SD card. Before you had to do it with SysX. So
yeah, this is
so it's a project or something.
Yeah, project based. Yeah.
Can you store something, maybe like a number of patterns separately, or is it one set?
Everything is project,
especially sounds. Maybe you want to have 2 or 3 sounds from another project and want to import them.
You can copy paste across projects. So if you want to bring a pattern or a patch from a project to another, you can copy and paste it. Easy. It's just
Okay. Because it's just
I
important.
think
Yeah.
you already said it. You want to make a polyphonic version. You want to do a drum version. So normally we have to really
It's a
torture the
running gag.
people
It's a running gag.
to get some ideas or some future thingies out of the developers. But you're pretty open about it.
Yeah.
So it's really
Why
cool.
not? I mean, I'm open about it, but I'm also open about the fact that it will take a long time. Like, let's be honest, you won't see a Norand drum machine before 2025 probably, because it's one thing to have a mono synth, but when you do a drum machine, it's like 8 synths into one, and they have to sound well together. So it's extremely complicated. So we will focus this year, and the next we will probably release a few Eurorack module, but the next desktop stuff will take a long time. Let's be honest, because we want to make it right. And
will you do the drum machine earlier or after the? It looks like there's a polyphonic synth that can do sort of everything. Just like the
I think
there should be a poly, and then the drum.
I think actually the first thing I want to work on is a sinusoidal modeling synthesizer. I already mentioned it in the past with you, I think.
Yeah.
So sinusoidal modeling is kind of my thing. I've developed algorithm for that a long time ago, and I love what you can do with it. And I want to implement it in a hardware version. So that will probably be the first thing. And then with this, I will have all the building blocks to move forward with more complicated synth like polyphonic and drum machine, because it will combine everything that I have made in the analog world and those things that I will make in the digital world together.
To make it clear, this is not a big company. This is basically just you that's developing.
Not anymore.
Everything.
Actually, I've been joined by Simon. He's been in an internship with me for 6 months now. He's really talented, really passionate about synthesizer. I'm really glad he's joining us full time this month. So now I have help on the development side, and on the marketing and business side, I have a partner here in Berlin, Paul, who's helping a lot as well. He's not full time with us, but he's
a really nice guy. He formerly worked for Native Instruments, I think.
Yeah, he was with Native before. Now he has multiple projects, and Norand is one of them. And he's helping a lot. He's
really supportive. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So it's a very small company. Before we had JB, and he's an artist and decided to focus on his musical career. So he left the company recently, but I'm really happy for him because he's a very talented musician, and I really hope that he succeeds, because he deserves it. He had done some amazing stuff for Norand, and he will continue as a freelancer, I hope.
So we wish you a lot of luck and success with this product, because it's so deep in some regards that deserves a lot of more attention, I think. Oh, what do you say?
No, I would like you to die.
Yeah, it sounds silly, but it's really something I want to see.
Well, thank you very much. I will continue to work hard and try and do the best I can to release all these ideas I have in mind.
Maybe we should arrange something to show the practical side, because maybe we could do that in the future or in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in about 3 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we will have some demo unit, and then we can talk again.
Is there something you think we have left out from what's new, and things in the firmware you really want everyone to know that we didn't really touch?
Not really. I mean, there will be a lot of other things. The thing is, those 3D sensors, they allow for tons of cool creative features, and I'm sure that once it ends up in the end of our users, new ones and old ones that may update, they will have all sorts of crazy ideas of things to do with it. And we've always been very open to our users' ideas, and we always implement them. We implemented a lot of ideas that got a lot of traction on the forums, or people sending feature requests via email. And sometimes
So you're basically always open to
yes,
features that make sense, or
that makes sense.
features that are crazy and a bit strange, but maybe apply to a handful of musicians.
We try to. I mean, if we cannot implement everything.
Yeah.
We try to focus on the thing that sort of makes sense. The thing that I say. Sometimes I read emails. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a really good idea. I don't need anyone else to tell me this is good, because I find it a good idea. So I receive one advice and I implement it. Sometimes some ideas I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not really my thing. But then I receive like 10 emails about it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, people wants that, so I'm going to implement it. It's not just about me; it's about the users and the community.
Yeah.
I think we are happy now.
Yeah.
We squeezed a lot of. I'm completely overthrown today.
Yeah, it's a hard 3 days super booth.
Thank you for watching, and
thank you for watching, and please subscribe to the channel if you want to see more about developer talks and other stuffs here on our channel.
Sometimes in German.
Sometimes.
Sorry.
And
Sorry.
we hope to see you soon.
Well, thank you for having me, and see you soon. I hope.
Yeah,
Bye.
of course.
Bye-bye.
Bye.